Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to What You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at the FP Journe Octa Divine. You can see this 36mm platinum FP Journe with brass movement on our website, whatyouwant.com. Purchase it there. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, What You Want Inc. You can also click on the card in the upper right-hand corner of the screen at any time to see our complete listing for this watch with high-resolution photographs, accessories included, and naturally, complete pricing details for this watch. Now, it's a classically proportioned men's dress watch. 36mm across the round of the case, 10.5mm thick with a gloriously sloped domed platinum bezel, so easily compatible with any tight sleeve or dress cuff. But it does have a full-figured 47.5mm measurement from lug to lug. Now, I just featured a 40mm Rolex Daytona that had the same lug to lug measurement. This is a 36mm case, so FP Journe sort of abided by the classic definition of a watch as bezel, case, and lugs to create that tripartite coherence that essentially accepts that with a smaller case, you need larger, more flowing, more complex lugs to create definition and visual strength as part of that total aesthetic package. Now, it has a lot of platinum in it. The case, because of those broad, sculpted lugs, actually has great weight for a 36mm watch, and because the case itself is 36mm, Journe's able to visually extend those lugs and make them a more active part of the aesthetic equation. Now, on oversized watches, the lugs tend to get ground down to nothing because you can build a bigger case, but if you want to have a big case and huge lugs, you're going to wind up with a clock for the wrist and no customers remaining. But Journe's able to splay those lugs out and join them to actual conforming end-piece straps, which is to say the spring bars and the drillings of the lugs are pressed right up against the case. Now, normally this makes a watch hard to wear on a smaller wrist if it's an oversized watch, but when it's 36mm, that little bit of extra flair, that little bit of extra resistance is worth it, and it doesn't compromise the ergonomics on a small wrist. It also creates a more integrated look where you have the strap flowing into bezel, flowing around and out the other side with no daylight showing between case and strap. Very, very coherent. Now, it's important to note that the Octa Divine was part of the first generation of FP Journe automatic watches. Debuting in 2003, the brass movement feature on this one was actually phased out in 2004. So 2003 and part of 2004, that's the entirety of the production span for the brass movement Octa Divine. This one's also a little bit unusual in that it's delivered in traditional men's dress watch 36mm. The Octa Divine was the only Journe available in 36 or 40mm case sizes, and that's important because all the other references, with the exception of some grand complications, were offered in either 38 or 40mm, and of course the Chronometer Bleu is 39. But this one being available in 36 and 40, most were ordered in 40, so to have the brass movement only briefly produced in this model and the 36mm case is an exceptional combination. Now, the dial is pure FP Journe. You can see it has a screw-fixed hour and minute track. Now, this is important because the idea of putting screws on the dial as opposed to the movement on the caseback was one of FP Journe's revolutionary aesthetic innovations of the late 90s. Now, initially, there were a lot of detractors. Ultimately, there were a million copycats. People copied what worked, but only FP Journe had the vision to be the first, and moreover, the copycats never achieved this degree of aesthetic impact. There's a beautiful vintage-style railroad minute track outboard, and those gorgeous biomorphic Journe hands, you could see them on a watchmaker's bench, absent any of the other features of this watch, and immediately know what timepiece he's working on. They are that distinctive, that redolent of FP Journe's Genève micro-manufacture. You can also see the 120-hour power scale. Now, that's a power reserve indicator, and with 5 days of power reserve and automatic winding, this is a great watch for the guy who just wants to set it and forget it. Or if you have a rotation of watches, with that 5-day power reserve, you can take this one off for a time, perhaps on Friday afternoon when you're going to put on your Octa Sport for the weekend, picking it up again on Monday. Double-digit date and a moon phase. It's worth noting that both of them feature a little bit of a step to their apertures, so there isn't a sheer cut straight down from the dial to the discs. There's more of a visual transition. It's gentle, it's calculated, and it's a successful calculation at that. Now, the moon phase is a bit more complex than a conventional brass wheel with lacquer on it. It's actually a sapphire with lacquered portions and metallicized portions to create the moon and the stars, as well as the blue of the night sky. It is, in its own right, a little piece of micro art. And the artistry continues on the case back. Here you have F.P. Journe's first generation automatic caliber. You can see the rotor is actually slightly off-centered, and it has a huge sprawling vista between the bridges and the balance itself. Now it's called the caliber 1303. That's the Octa Divine's variant of the 1300 caliber, and it features a free-sprung balance, laser welded at the collet, basically where the hairspring attaches to the balance, and fixed at the stud with a traditional twin-screw polished Geneva stud cap. You can see with that huge sprawling gulf between the bridges and the base plate, you easily discern the tight and even perlage across the base of the movement itself. So the decoration here is rather simple and sober, but impeccably executed, and there's a gorgeous clou de Paris rose-lathe guilloche pattern on the 22-karat gold winding rotor. Now the watch does have a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate, so it has a little bit of a statelier vintage cadence to it. 271 parts and 36 joules. F.P. Journe calls this a chronometer, despite the fact that he eschews the COSC tests. He claims that with adjustment in 5 positions, a chronometer-grade free-sprung balance, and the company's own proprietary horological know-how, that this watch actually exceeds the ISO 3159 standard that forms the basis of the COSC. You can buy this Chronometer Plus F.P. Journe Octa Divine 36mm in platinum on our website, watchyouwant.com.